please welcome to the stage, Mark Watson!
Hi, welcome. Thank you very much, welcome. Thank you. Thanks very much. Welcome to the show. Thanks for coming. It's me, Mark Watson, from Henley's Junior School. Again, that'll absolutely kill on Netflix or Amazon Prime, I think, whichever platform we eventually find. People love the Henley stuff. If I can somehow bring up the old Bristol Grammar versus QEH rivalry, it's going to... Yeah, this is going to go... I was going to say go viral, but it's not so much of a thing there. Whether or not it's good to go viral has dramatically changed in the past couple of weeks, I think it's fair to say. Thank you for coming. Probably some of you have seen before, some not. It doesn't really matter in terms of the show. I never know quite how much to say about myself by way of introduction, because just by way of introduction, I've been voted one of the 50 sexiest Jews on Twitter. So, yeah, thank you. Yeah, just... It's worth, just so you know what you're dealing with, it's peculiar one, mixed feelings. For a start, it wasn't an official competition. It wasn't something that I signed up for. They're not really allowed to rank the Jews now, for quite a lot of good reasons. And, I mean, I was recently divorced. We'll come on to that. So it's nice to be called sexy with any amount of caveats, really. But obviously, sexiest Jews and then just the ones on Twitter is quite a limited subset of another quite limited subset. Also, I'm not Jewish, actually. That's the main thing. At all. No Jewish blood whatsoever. I had no idea how this was researched, but wasn't done very thoroughly. Now it's got... Looking forward to my sexiest Muslim nomination sometime soon. Sorry. It's not... I mean, I'd never do pick on latecomers, but those people took a real risk there. That's very near the front to be late for a show that's being recorded, it really is. Every instinct wanted to bail out of the Jewish thing and just call those people pricks, but I wouldn't do it, because not the sort of comedian that I am. I sort of pride myself on valuing my audience, and this show is all about empathy, about trying to understand other people better. That's why I gave these cards out at the start, which, if you didn't see one, it says, what's the thing about you that people don't understand, or don't empathise with, your strangest opinion or habit or character trait. I've been doing this ever since I first came to the Old Vic for the dawn of this show. I spent a year traversing the country, getting people to write these cards out. A fraction of them appear down there. There's a couple of thousand down there, but I've got an enormous treasury of people's weird opinions now in my, nearly said in my house, not used to being divorced yet, in my current living arrangement. And I've done that once again tonight because it is important to me to try to bond with an audience rather than pick on people. And I'm just going to say it again, no one will get picked on here. I will try to chat to some of these people via these cards, but it will be nice, consensual conversation. No one, I can't even, if it helps, I can't see you very well at all. I'm genuinely short-sighted because of the cameras and the lights. The glare off these glasses is significant. So even in the front couple of rows, I can see there are people there, but beyond that, even then, I can't make out your faces. So if I appear to be looking at your shirt or your haircut or some of the other things that comedians innovatively pick up on, I am actually just staring off into the middle distance, hoping for the best. For all I know, it might just be 2 rows of people, and behind that is a laughter track. The theatres had to arrange because the virus has wiped out most of the potential. It was a nightmare scenario that even though the show was sold out, people just wouldn't show up because of the risk of death. But Bristolians are better than that, I think. I read last week they are thinking of banning all gatherings over 1,000 people indoors, but cleverly I've engineered my career, so that's not really a problem. Your move, McIntyre. Yes, I bet the O2 did seem like a good idea at the time. Anyway, so I will be reading out some of these cards periodically and trying to chat to some of the people that wrote them, but I'll never pick on anyone. As I say, I cannot see. People don't always believe that I can't see very well because people are so accustomed to the idea that comedians just make everything up and lie that even when you wear glasses on stage, people often just think it's some sort of shtick. 2 or 3 times, again, on this tour, I've had people going, oh, I enjoyed that, but what's that about? The glasses. I have to explain, well, it's to correct a sight defect, you see. I surprised you've not come across these handy little gadgets before. But that is the culture of distrust that we live in. I'm the same. I'm the same with long-sighted, but quite often you meet people that claim to be long-sighted, the other team, the enemy, if you will, my rivals. And I'm always very nice about long-sightedness, but I don't think it is a real thing, because it just sort of goes against logic. How can you, if something's closer, you can see it, but surely, how can you be, oh, I'm long-sighted, I can't see my hand in front of my face, but I can see Paris, yep, there it is. I don't think so. No, it seems like bollocks to me. Of course, one doesn't want, this is the only thing about not talking to people. I might easily alienate people here that are like, I don't know, anyone long-sighted? Yeah. What? You are? You can see why I'm suspicious. Front row is a strange choice, then sure. Wouldn't you have had a better view from, like, Cabot Tower? So you've deliberately sat in a seat where you can't basically see a fucking thing. Sorry. I sort of wish more of my audience would do that. I could just come on stage naked. Oh, actually, there's other rules against that now. Did you choose the seat, though? No. I see. But you're aware of his long-sightedness, presumably? Nonetheless, you... Not really? Okay. Sorry, I just assumed that you were together. I see, okay. It's the sort of thing that I thought might come up in conversation if you were married, but there we are. Do you not even believe he's long-sighted deep down? No, of course you don't. No, I feel vindicated. So, yes, you will be fine. But it's nice to know your audience, partly from a comedian's point of view, and partly because, as I've mentioned, I've just been through a divorce. My mission in life is to try to bond with people better, use my empathy to understand people better, so I'm not in a situation, again, where I feel so isolated, and so on. It's just tactically good to know your crowd as well. As a comedian, I've recently turned 40, so I tend to think of my average audience member as being about my age. In some cases, that is generous, probably, but in other cases, it's probably it's impossible to know. It doesn't really matter how old people are. I like to feel everyone's involved. It's worth knowing if there's anyone distressingly young, because as I drift into my 40s, I obviously feel quite sort of distanced from my own younger audience, but just, again, I can't really make much out. But I don't think there's many people here under about, I don't know, it's mixed feelings. You want to have some people under 18, otherwise sort of your career's longevity is called into question. But too many of them, and you worry you've got nothing relevant to say. A good compromise would be a handful. Is there anyone under 18? I might as well ask. There we go. It's you and you. So, there. Yes. Let's try and make money while we can, then. How old are you, mate? 17. And is that the youngest person here, or are you younger than that out there? 16. Yeah. You've got away with that, mate. Obviously 16 is not that worryingly young, but if you think about the actual reality of it, if someone is 16 now, that means born in, 2003, 4? Born in 2003, which, that's gone down really badly, mate. It's, no fault of yours, it's the fault of whoever brought you here, but it's just, you can see why as well. 2000, with the greatest respect, 2003 is not a year you can be born in. We were just all doing stuff that year. I began comedy in 2002. By 2003, I'd moved into a flat in London. You were just sliding around in your own shit. So was I, arguably, but... What's your name? Lewis, yeah, fair enough. I can deal with that. We had Lewis Carey. Lewis was one we had in the old days. Sometimes if you ask a teenager what the name is now, it's the incomprehensible names have crept in. Rock formation, or name is an emoji, you need an app for it. Lewis I can deal with, I think. And it shouldn't affect your enjoyment of the show, your youthfulness. There's a couple of moments maybe where, it doesn't matter, but do you know who Timmy Mallet was? I suppose he is, arguably. So I inadvertently announced the death of Timmy Mallet there. That is, as far as I know, not the case. Do you know who Timmy Mallet is? No, fair enough. And I thought that would be a no. And not easy to explain, is it? It's only for one joke, so it doesn't really matter. But basically, there used to be a bloke called Timmy Mallet on the telly. He had a mallet. And that was all we really knew at the time as well. I tell you what, again, it's absolutely fine if the answer's no, Lewis, but this will make some people feel old if the answer's no. Have you heard the song I'm Too Sexy by Right Said Fred? Yeah, I have. Okay, fine. There was a real tense moment there as everyone in the room pondered their mortality, something which, if you've been watching the news, we're all doing more or less 24/7 anyway. The reason that's become my sort of yardstick for whether I'm too old for my own audience is that I had to do a show last year at Northern University, and I had this joke, a series of jokes really, about that song, I'm Too Sexy, and that whole strange... Did you know it, the 17-year-old? That'll do, yeah. This is the thing. So the audience, because it was a student gig, all of the audience were these guys sort of age, slightly older, if anything, 18, 19, even 20-year-olds. And this joke about, so this routine about I'm Too Sexy had never failed before. I did it to absolute silence, incomprehension, the comedian's greatest fear. But then I looked out at the room and did the maths, and I worked out I was the only person in the room that had been born when the song I'm Too Sexy came out. I had to spend 5 minutes of this gig just explaining the song. I had to say, well, this is a very sad song we used to have in the 90s about a guy whose unusually high level of sexiness prevents him from taking part in a range of activities, really. So he has to take back a shirt that he's bought, for example. A fair bit of the song is just sort of low-level admin, really, not very dramatic. He's prevented from visiting Japan for reasons that are never really clarified in the song, but through the quirk of the Japanese immigration laws as they were at the time. Loses his cat, of course. That's one of the saddest lyrics in all pop music. Too sexy for my cat. Sorry. For everyone else, this is real fun, Lewis. I never really understood the lyric then or now, because these days I've got a cat, and they put you through quite a lot of background checks to make sure you are a suitable household. So it's hard to understand how his inappropriate level of sexiness slipped through the net. I suppose maybe I'm overthinking it. You have to assume he got the cat and then unexpectedly became sexy after the fact, and so, anyway, right, we're good now, Lewis. On to Deeply Dippy. Again, you still forget, you keep forgetting you're divorced. I claim to have a cat. I have half a cat. Actually, if you look at the terms of the settlement, 0.2 of a cat. Now, none of this probably can go into the recording. But now you've laughed that much at that, it will have to. Okay, fine. Well, we'll just... Fine, I'm sure there's an amicable way around it. Good, so I've got a little bit of a taste of who you are as an audience, and again, these cards are only delivered as you're taking your seats, which means I have had very little time to look through these. I'll look through them a little bit more as we go along. Sometimes I get a sense of how the audience is getting on. This person's written, I wonder who this is. They're not going to come forward, I shouldn't think. Never met him, but the guy behind me is a massive tit wank. So, there you go. Just be aware of who that. If you think that could be, if you feel judged by the person in front of you, that might be why. Sometimes the cards give me a sense of why people. You always wonder why people have come. You like to imagine that you're, especially in your own town, you're sort of a cult figure, but it's not always the case. This person's written, I thought I saw you on the Downs 2 weeks ago, and that's what led me to come to the show. So there you go. That's my marketing strategy. I just wander around until people eventually. He looks... Did you see the way he stopped there and looked at that tree? Yeah, I'll go and see him. This person's written, on my dog walks, I think about where I could bury a body. Now, I suppose the mind wanders, but you can't... And there are some which I hope are a genuine snapshot of the average audience member. I liked this card. People don't understand about me that I don't care about my house and garden, and I have no idea when things are planted and what the names of the plants are. I'm a 62-year-old woman. I'd rather spend my time drinking. There you go. Good card. Good. Anyone want to lay claim to that card? No, I should be well in the bar by now. This is nice, more for me, really, than for anyone else. But this person's written, I proposed to my now wife at a Mark Watson gig, and it's on the DVD, and that's true. When I did the one at the Hippodrome years ago, there was a successful proposal during the show, and I'm cheered to hear that, well, actually, the card doesn't necessarily say the marriage is still going, but it would be an amazing twist if, on the reverse side, it said, anyway, went to shit in the first year. Where are you?
We're here.
There we are. So, and that was... What, two... Yeah, it's nice, isn't it? Yeah. My own experience suggests that you do deserve a round of applause just for remaining 8 years in the marriage. 8 years? I think it was 2011, wasn't it, with the proposal?
Yes.
It's the sort of thing you should remember, to be fair. Long pause there. It's creepy that I have a more of a grasp on the history of your relationship than you do in some ways. So you then, I of course have not seen you since you got married then the following year, and still at it. So that didn't sound right, did it? And also in other news, I've just seen my mum in the road behind. That's a shame. Amazing stuff. So in a sort of way, I'm responsible for 3 children, exactly what the world needs. That is cheering. And as far as you know, the marriage is going well? Oh yeah, that's just, sorry. So my personal history doesn't necessarily suggest that I've got the magic touch, but it's nice if I've managed, there we are, I'm going to live vicariously through you two. Oh, that is really nice, thank you. I was going to say I'll leave you alone now, but it's obvious that our lives are bound up inextricably together. You'll forget this now, but in 7 more years, I'll be knocking on your door. Some people don't need to do this sort of thing. Of course, some entertainers just have an instinctive knack of extracting information from an audience, understanding people just by looking at them. The toughest person I've ever had to follow onto stage, not even a comedian, is a mind reader bloke called Colin Cloud, is his name. Sort of Darren Brown-esque, that sort of genre, one of these pricks that can just do anything. Impressive, but shouldn't be allowed, should be locked up. The things he would, and I had to follow, I'd gone after this guy, and he was doing things that are just not possible you've seen the sort of thing, guess your birthday, guess your pin, multiply them together, oops, it's tattooed across my chest. And all this sort of, the audience quite rightly going absolutely nuts for this. Every trick. There was one point where they were going so mad, he had to stop them from, stop it, they were clapping too much. I was watching in the wings thinking, yeah, we all have that sometimes. And even then, he stopped them in order to, inserted a trick within, he was doing some other, and he said, oh, sorry, we'll come back to this, we'll come back to that. Just pointed at someone and said, you've got a caravan in Cornwall, haven't you? And this person just started to sob uncontrollably. Rightly so, it's not a good investment. It takes too long to get there. Even from here, you don't use it as much as you think. And so I'm watching this in the wings thinking, how am I meant to follow this? It is impossible. And for his last trick, he pointed at a lady in the audience. It wasn't a set. You could tell it wasn't a set. I could see her face. He said, guess how much money you've got in your purse. Didn't even look at the purse. He just got her to hold her hand up. He looked at the hand. That was it. He made a big song and dance. It's only you that says that, really, Mum. But there you go. He made a song and dance out of saying, I'm gonna go for, ooh, it's a tricky one. Oh, this is a tough one tonight. All this sort of business. And of course, if you're me, you're thinking, just get on with it. It's obviously not a tricky one because you're obviously the devil. So you just do your trick, and I'll come on and with my shitty skill set, and then we'll all go home, shall we? Eventually, he said, I'm going to go for 12. I'm getting £12.50. Yes, £12.50 in your purse, madam. Big loud voice. Am I right? And real hush in the auditorium, as tension, and also tension in the wings. But it's fair to say we wanted different things. And somehow my dream came true, bravely. It was far more people than this, sort of like a now illegal number of people in the room. I hope that people are watching this in the future where this virus has sputtered out. It means the jokes aren't as funny, but it'll mean we're all alive. So I'm prepared. Not every comedian would take that trade-off, but I will. In front of, I think about 3,000 people, this brave woman said, nope, sorry. It's an amazing moment, complete silence in that I'm sure it was quiet enough that you could hear me go, yes, get some jokes, mate. Get some jokes, stop stealing people's thoughts. And of course, I should have been suspicious because we've all seen conjurers, magicians, these sort of people, and this is what they do, appear to have messed the trick up, but they're actually building up to something even better. Misdirection, I think it's called. But no, I fell for this crap for about 2 minutes. I thought, he's fucked his own show up. I'm going to be the saviour of this gig. All I've got to do is walk on, mention that I look a bit Jewish, and off we go. And then he said, he made, again, a big thing of going, this is so embarrassing. Can't believe it. Sorry, ladies and gentlemen. Just that it was too late, but out of interest, how much was it? And the woman went, it's actually £13.50. So then, of course, the audience went, oh, and can you believe it? Just out by £1. We missed it by £1. There's £1 missing somewhere in the room, he said. This is where I started to think, here we go. And sure enough, he just turned the lampshade into a dove. It shat out £1 coin. Caught it in his hat, turned the hat into a Mercedes, drove off through the... I'm only exaggerating a bit. It was unbelievable. 9-minute standing ovation. The place was absolutely... The audience was in ruins. Even the MC, that's the worst bit, the compere for the evening, whose whole job is to try and build everyone up equally. I'll never forget, it came on, like, visibly emotional. That, ladies and gentlemen, Jesus Christ, have you ever seen anything like that in your lives before? Anyway, next, Mark Watson. And that is the sort of thing you remember for quite a long time as a performer. I think that's partly why I spend a fair bit of the start of the show trying to get to know the general quirks of the audience, because I want people to feel involved. I want to feel like I'm connected with my audience. Part of it as well is just value for money. I worry a lot that people... this isn't something we set up just to do a recording. This is a proper show. People are paid. I'm very grateful for that, conscious of it. I think I've become neurotic about value for money as a result of having kids, because you'll know if you've got children, you're ripped off all the time. There's so many shit family attractions out there, and there's nothing. This bloke's only got to have basically 2 goats, and he can call it a city farm, and you're there, £27.50, no concessions for children, because it's your fault for having children in the first place, and you get there, one of the goats is dead, it's too late, you're committed now, this is your Saturday, they show you a picture of the goat, and that will have to do. I'll tell you where this grudge began. The most unrewarding family attraction that I've been to, not all that far from here, was Centre Parks. There's already not enough time to air all my grievances against Centre Parks. I should have known not to trust people that couldn't spell centre or parks, I suppose. Feels like a Bristol sort of joke, that. Won't always translate. My beef with it is how expensive it is. Centre Parks, all of their advertising suggests that it's just like a foreign holiday. It's just like going abroad, but so much more affordable. And you watch now that people are nervous about travelling abroad. They'll beat this drum even harder. Centre Parks, just like being abroad, but cheap. So much cheaper. It's not. For the same price, you could have gone to India for 6 weeks, but you haven't. You're just in a damp forest, not that far from Swindon, realistically, where you've just paid £12.50 for an hour on a badminton court. Well, since I'm ranting, I obviously am doing this now. I don't know if we'll be allowed to mention the brand, but I believe it's fairly clear what I'm talking about now. No real coming back from this. On the subject of this badminton, £12.50, not including, and I can't really believe I'm going to say these words out loud, £2.50 shuttlecock supplement, right, which... maybe I'm a bit old-fashioned, but I feel like if you hire a badminton court, they should give you a shuttlecock, really, because it's not quite the same game without one. What are you meant to do if you're on a budget, like I was? All right, kids, just waggle your rackets in the air. Daddy will tell you where the shuttlecock might have landed had he been on TV a bit more this year. What's that? Yes, Romesh's children do have a shuttlecock, I expect. My first night at Centre Parks, I bought 2 pints, and... Of course, by my first night, I mean every night, and by 2, I mean 19. But the first night, I was unprepared for what buying drinks or food or anything in a Centre Parks entails, because you are a captive audience, of course, so the prices are remarkable. Now, Bristol's got a lot fancier and more expensive, as we all know, even in the past 5 years, but still, I feel most people will agree this is unacceptable. This would be unacceptable, like, in any part of the world, I think. 2 pints at this Centre Parks, £18.50, right? If you put all those noises together, that is what came out of me. And then just one person hissed, Jesus. And there's nothing you can do. Contactless card. The guy had the card away from me. It was gone. £20, magically gone like that. Just like that. The guy wasn't even apologetic. I think that was the worst bit for me. This guy served me every night. It was always the same guy. And the pricing wasn't his fault, of course, but inevitably I came to really hate him. And... he seems to think it was really funny. His catchphrase, well, not funny, but he certainly wasn't apologising. His catchphrase was, "That's going to be," which for some reason really wound me up, like he didn't already know the price. 2 pints, that's going to be £18.50, please. I was like, when? When is it going to be that expensive? In the year 2045, perhaps? Would you mind charging me the current value of the drinks rather than imagining some future dystopia where there's been an international liquor shortage? And also, and actually... Now I think about it, I should have started with this, really. The tree blew over onto our fucking chalet. As I say it out loud, that is my headline complaint, really. This wasn't recent. It wasn't during all these gales and things. It was an almost windless night. The tree just came down at 2 a.m, stoved in the roof of the chalet. It was made of the same stuff they make the roof of a cream egg out of. In the morning, no apology, or they grudgingly moved us to a different chalet because we pointed out that we could now see the sky. And some of their marketing does talk about sleeping under the stars, but they don't make out that it's compulsory to do that. And even then, when we got home, there was no apology or anything. Eventually, after my then wife, my ex-wife, fired off an email to Centre Parks management to complain. Even then, there was no compensation, nothing. They eventually sent us, by way of apology, 2 bottles of Australia's second shittest import wine, which pretty sure I'm not allowed to say the name of that one, but put it this way, if I was Jacob, I wouldn't be that proud of my creek. I think we've nimbly sidestepped that potential problem. Ever since then, I suppose, I've been intent on giving value for money, but as I say, since the divorce, I've been kind of hell-bent on connecting properly with people, using empathy, building bridges between my brain and other people's. I think it's a sort of key human skill which we need more than ever, really. I'm sorry to have banged on quite a bit about the divorce. It's just quite stressful. I don't know if anyone here is divorced. I know that you two are still happily married, of course, but not really time to go around and talk about my influence on everyone's relationship here. It's the actual process of divorce, some of you will know, is massively stressful. I read somewhere, I don't know how you could really measure this, but someone, you will see this online, they reckon divorce is in the top 3 most stressful things that you can go through in life. So you will have seen it. It goes bereavement, divorce, and then number 3 is, you think your phone has been charging for an hour, but you didn't have it in properly. I was amazed that was only number 3, really. As much as anything, it's how stupid you feel when you realise all that time we're looking at it in the wall, thinking, oh, there it is, merrily charging away. That'll be on 90, probably 95% battery by now. I'm going to be all over WhatsApp. And 18? What? I'm going out tonight. I can't go out with 18%. I'm not a psychopath. It's too late by then. You can't go back in time. You can't repair the bad decisions. You can't live your life again. Anyway, back to the divorce. It's had a significant psychological impact on me, I think it's fair to say, and this show is sort of a response to that. I'm constantly trying to form new connections, I suppose in a way start my life again after the divorce, which I don't know if you've even picked that up, there's barely noticeable subtext in the show, but there's been a change in my living circumstances over the past few years, and the biggest impact, of course, is your relationship with your children. Things are different when you don't live with your kids anymore. I still see them all the time, but you've got much more to prove to your kids. You're no longer... Well, I was never really an authority figure, as it was. Parenting is very difficult. I touched on this briefly. You had twins. I don't even know how people are meant to raise one at a time, really. But it depends on a lot of things. Perhaps I was too young. I wasn't really young. I was 30 when my first kid arrived. But in terms of emotional maturity, perhaps I was not ready to raise my own children. I'm still quite, as you might have gathered from my Pavlovian response, even to her presence in the room, I'm still quite dependent on my own mum for someone that is 40 now. Not economically dependent, but just in terms of advice, constantly asking for help with things. I'm always on the phone to my mum. How do I make the dishwasher work? What is tax? Should I... I've got fellow comedians for whom that wouldn't be a joke, actually. But there's absolutely no way of including that in the show, I don't think. Or is there? If I don't mention any names, it remains just a funny little line. We're all thinking it, though. Recently, I had a bee in my sink, and... might not sound like a crisis to you, but from my point of view, it was enormous, though, to be fair. The bee was the size of Neil Kinnock, and so you got no chance with that, Lewis. But basically, again, there's too much to recap. There used to be 2 main parties. Neil Kinnock was a man who could have been Prime Minister, but then he fell over on a beach, so he wasn't in the end. And then later there was another man who might have made a good Prime Minister, but he ate bacon strangely, so he also wasn't. And here we are. This will serve as a historical document of our politics. Anyway, whichever side of the political spectrum you were on, this bee was bloody enormous. And I didn't want to touch it. It appeared to be dead, but I didn't want to get it out. So I had this idea that it can still sting you. I've got it in my head somewhere that a bee can still hurt you, even after its death. But I might be thinking of a wasp or a bear or something, or I might have just made this up entirely. So anyway, I rang my mum. I was like, there's a bee in my sink. Yes, I know it's 4 a.m. Focus, please. You are my mother. So there's a bee in my sink. Shall I just kill myself, or is there another way around it? And she was sort of quite anti that strategy. She said, well, just get a spoon and flush it down the toilet. I know, but again, you don't go against your mum's advice. So I was like, okay, fine, I've done that. Now, what do I do about this bee, though? Because we've not really made any impact on that situation at all. I don't even think it saw me going towards the bathroom, actually, and I can hear it clanking about in the pipes, that spoon. So I'm really keen for that joke to make it into the edit, so I've had 4 alternative goes at the same punchline, basically, with a view to... This is, as I say, probably the last performance of this show, so that marks the retirement of the end of the troubled career of that bee joke, which is one of my favourites, but it's so out of character for me. I have hardly any jokes that rely on sort of play on words like that. I'm not, in a sense, really a comedian, or just a man ranting. So the audience's response is split when I produce evidence of a genuine gag, and I'm fond of the bee joke, and I will always put it in the team if possible. You'll know if you've ever seen me before, if you've ever heard me talk about one of the 2 local football teams. I'm obsessed with football, and I always think of myself as a manager, and the jokes are my players. This is sort of how I rationalise having a job like this, and you have to work out who's in the team. And some jokes, like the thing about the sexiest Jews, which is a true story, will always have a good game. Jokes like the bee, sometimes you have to put your arm around it in the dressing room and say, just not your night now, but keep working, keep training hard. After every gig, I think about whether it was a win or a defeat or a draw. Sometimes on the way home, I'll do like a little press conference. I wish I was making any of this up. I really did. 15 years of doing this will change a man. Anyway, back to my kids and how I'm definitely a suitable parent for them. This person's written on their card, I'm not bothered by my husband's huge celebrity crush. Brackets, it's you. They're very rare. I'm on the end of a celebrity crush. I'm delighted with that. Anyone? I'm not immediately going to action it, but it's good to know. I reckon this person will come forward because this is somebody that's sort of well in touch with their own quirks. I count how many crisps or pieces of chocolate are in a packet. And then there's a long list of stats. Average minstrels in a pack, 45. Average peanut M&Ms, 67. And it goes on like that for a while. Then it says, mini eggs have reduced in the past 5 years from 30 to just 19. They're damning statistics. Who is this who counts the confectionery? Hello? I had no doubt that person would out themselves. Are you up there? So I couldn't see where the voice came from. Where are you? It is the gallery. Can you do it for all of them? I suppose it depends on what ones you like. Those grab bags of Maltesers, for example, how many would you expect to get?
No idea.
He's a fraud. I think there was a general relief in the audience that you couldn't just do one on spec like that, because that would be much worse. At what point did you realise that mini eggs were starting to screw us over?
2 years ago.
I see. From 30 to 19, it's getting on for half as many as there used to be in a packet. Yeah. He's not chatty, but he knows his numbers. Would you know how many Pringles to expect in a tube, or is that beyond your purview? Oh, I couldn't read that one. Yes, you're right, it is. My God, he's covered every possible question there. Sure enough, there are 86 Pringles in an average pack. I couldn't read what that one said, but yeah, Pringles. It's mind-blowing that anybody knows that. What happens, I will leave you alone in a minute. What if you say you're having a party and there's a tube of Pringles that is for general use? How do you keep track of it? Right, fair enough. Again, I think I'm relieved that is the answer. Rather than going around every guest saying, how many Pringles would you say you've had? Only, No, I'm not monitoring your Pringle usage. It's worse than that. I'm keeping a national spreadsheet of exactly how many Pringles. The terrible thing is, I'm pretty sure I'm going to be counting them from now on. That's right. You're right. You look a bit. Yeah, no, I've just a tube of Pringles, 82, so I've gutted. I can't believe they do that to me. On a slightly similar note, this one says, I'm a maths geek who loves pigs, and my special ability is to draw a pig with my eyes shut. And they've demonstrated it by drawing a pig with their eyes shut, and you'll only be able to see this at the front, but it is shit, unfortunately. It's barely identifiable as any sort of animal. Hi, Mark, this is cold. One time, I was so hungover, I upgraded my long-haul flight to upper class and left my best friend in economy. Where's Dominic?
Hello.
Are you still friends?
Yeah.
They've shrugged that off.
She's right here.
There we go. I really like the fact that you got over it.
No, I bring it up.
I would bring it. How long was the flight?
It was like 11 hours.
It's yeah. Anyway, I'll see you later. Enjoy your flight. At what point did you decide it, Dominic? Sort of.
It happened at check-in.
You upgraded that check-in. Yeah. There we are. The person that sometimes whispers Jesus has done it again. By the way, you have gained a reaction not seen since the famous £18.50 for 2 drinks thing. There might be another Jesus for this. This person's written, I like to drink the bacon fat from the drip tray of the George Foreman grill. Yeah. A line's been crossed there, I think we can all agree. Again, the temptation of these is almost infinite, but we'll come back to them. It is a good exercise for me, this, because it's obviously... as I've already said, parent craft is difficult. I've got 2 children, a 10-year-old boy now and a 5-year-old girl, and they present sort of different challenges. The girl seems to be working out pretty well. The boy is still work in progress, really. It's obviously difficult knowing that he will eventually probably see this because it's been recorded. So I want to be unfair about his behaviour. That perhaps there is a version of the future where he's 20, laughing, saying things like, "Oh dear, it was funny when you lampooned me for all of my child life." But also scenario possibly doesn't happen. I don't want to. And also, of course, I love him. I love the kids equally and love both of them enormously. So it's not as if I want to give an example of my son's behaviour, which is fair, I think, because of course all kids are difficult, demanding, and tiring, and so on. But there are things my son says and does which make you think, I don't know if this is going to turn out well. This is a fair example, I think. I took him to watch E.T., right? The local cinema where I live had a season of what they were calling vintage movies. Or, yeah, if you're my sort of age, movies will do, I think. Let's not talk about the 80s like it's ancient Egypt. So E.T., will there be a pianist in there? Will it be in hieroglyphics? And I hadn't seen E.T. until that moment for a long time. So I'd forgotten how... very difficult, isn't it, not to touch your face when you keep reading advice to not touch your face. I've touched it easily 100 times during this performance. Again, if you're watching this in the future and you don't know what that joke means, that is good news for all of us here. So E.T. is quite surprisingly emotionally wrenching. I found it at the end. If you haven't seen it for a long time, I'm sure you'll remember the gist of it. The baddies, the adults, are trying to experiment on E.T. They have him, the scientists have him, but the kids rescue him and they get on the bikes and off they go, and eventually they return him to the spaceship. E.T. goes home and so forth. I hope everyone has seen E.T. Otherwise, some of that does go down as spoilers. You'd have to say significant size spoilers. Seems inconceivable that I don't know. You never know. You're 17. Have you seen E.T.? Right, there we go. Well, you don't need to now, basically. I think that there's a lot of films out there. Think how much of your life I could save you if I just run you through what's out there. These people try and catch a shark, don't work out. That's right. a dinosaur park turns out to be a terrible idea for a family attraction, but nonetheless, they open a new one about every 3 or 4 years. Apparently heedless of the insurance consequences that you think would mount up. So, there's a guy that's dead all along. Shouldn't have told you that, actually. But yeah, that is not a spoiler because you would never know that until it was, well, unless I don't know. I suppose you could be watching the film and get the sort of there's not really a phrase for it, but like a strong instinct, an almost supernatural set. Anyway. So the end of E.T. came, and when the lights came up, I noticed that a lot of the kids were really emotional, gripping onto other people's hands, gripping. There was a lot of father-son bonding, kids sort of sobbing, even some of the parents in tears, a lot of family scenes, but in the middle of it all, seemingly alone, my kid was completely indifferent, seemingly just like cramming popcorn into his mouth, this enormous pylon of popcorn, just staring blankly at the screen after this 2.5 hours of massive drama. And I said, what do you think? What did you think of it? And the first thing he said was, well, maybe there'll be a sequel where they go up into space and hunt him down. And you see what I mean? That's not normal, is it? Whose first response to E.T. is, never mind, we'll get that wrinkly fucker next time? Who watches E.T. and does not side with the character of E.T., for God's sake? What's it going to be like as an adult watching Schindler's List going, he should have kept his nose out of that whole situation? Shouldn't really joke about that film. It's a big movie for my people. A lot of the battles that I have with my kid are the same battles that everyone has with their children, basically. Go to sleep, go to school, but it's incredible how difficult these things are. The school is 15 minutes walk away. All I've got to do is get him into, not even into the car. There is no car. We just have to leave the house at 8:30 and walk in a straight line. But it's beyond me to police this because my kid has got a trick which is very simple but difficult to do anything about. I'd say it's pointing at the clock. It's 8:30. We need to leave now. And he just looks at the same clock and says, no, it's not. And that's it. How do you win that argument? It's not that he doesn't agree it is 8:30, he just refuses to acknowledge time as a construct. That is quite hard to win. He's like Trump, basically. My kid is post-fact. Even if you say, I promise you, I've been telling the time for 30 years, and that does say 8:30. He says, well, the public are sick of experts. I've heard that. Why is your time any better than mine? So we're always late. And if the school that the kids go to imposes this punishment called the late book, well, they say it's not a punishment. They say it's a health and safety measure. Of course it is a punishment. It's to shame you. You have to write your name, the kid's name, how late you are, and then why. There's a whole column that says reason for lateness, which I really resent, because of course it's health and safety to know what kids are on the premises, but the reason is none of their business. The reason is just I'm not a very good parent. You can't write that every time, can you? Still shit at this. There was a time we were extravagantly late. It was like nearly 9 o'clock. We were well over 20, maybe 25 minutes late. It was getting on for late enough that it might as well have just turned around and come back again, that's my son's dream, to arrive at 3 p.m. So I had to not only sign the late book, but in front of my son. And of course, he loved it, that I was in trouble. But it was his fault. All of the lateness was his fault. He'd done the usual things, not acknowledged the time, gone running off somewhere, burned down a hospital wing, all this business. But it's me signing this. I was furious at the fact that the judgmental eyes of the school secretary, but also at my own kid enjoying it. And I just snapped. And under reason for lateness, I wrote insubordination. I'm not taking the bullet for this. I was ready at 8:30. And I thought I might get into trouble with the school for sort of disrespecting the late book, but there was no comeback at all from them. So ever since then, I've been experimenting with the late book a little bit. One time under the reason I just wrote fate, because, is there a single reason for anything? The universe is very complicated. I put an asterisk and some bibliography, still nothing. Well, one time, towards the end of the term, I just wrote in big capitals, parenting is too much. And even then, I put my email address in case no one, mobile number, still nothing from the school. You'll hear parents constantly make jokes about social service. Oh, we'll have social service. We'll have social services around. The kids will be taken off. Where are they, these people? These miraculous entity that take your kids off your hand for a little while. What does it take to get their attention? I think that's how it works. I didn't read all of the leaflet, to be honest. And bedtime is another whole set of... I mean, I probably shouldn't say this in a way that there'll be a permanent record of, but quite a lot of the time when I've got both the kids, parenting on my watch, bedtime is very much a case of Daddy's got a little friend called Mr. Calpol and another little friend called 4 times the usual dose. Because, yes, he's a mischievous friend, that one. No matter what, how sound your bedtime plan is, kids will always throw something at you. Before Christmas, I had to put my son to bed. The daughter was already fine, as usual, safely tucked up, but then it's time for the kid, the big kid, the son. And it's about 8:30, quite a generous bedtime, really. It was a Saturday, though, but even I don't normally have them on Saturdays. This is a key detail. So I wasn't prepared for what came next. I said, right, mate, it's 8:30. It's about time we're going up, I think. And my son, quite an aggressive, angry, temperamental kid. I feel like he's thrown most things at me that I could have, but I did not anticipate this. He said, no, it's time for Strictly. And... sure enough, I texted their mother, and yes, it turns out my son, on top of all these other traits, is a Strictly obsessive. And so I was blindsided with this. I had to watch Strictly with my son, which nothing against the show, but I've never got into it. I'm almost always doing this on Saturday nights. I had no idea who all of the people were, but the main problem was, as I've mentioned, it was just before Christmas, and it started to emerge that this was the final of Strictly Come Dancing, which goes on for very nearly 4 days, it turns out. My God, there was just no end to the dancing. The fuckers just wouldn't stop dancing. They had about 13 dancers each. Then the previous year's winner comes out and dances. Bruce Forsyth is brought back from the dead and does a dance. Then it finished, but even then it wasn't over. They were just having a break for the public vote. By now, it's like, by the time it came, it was 10:30. It's almost my bedtime. I started to change tactics. I was like, well, mate, would you mind if I went to bed? All right, we'll role reverse. I'll go to bed. I'll leave it to you to lock up, pour a glass of wine, have a little sob. And, but he knew what he was doing. He kept saying, well, but Mum lets me watch it. Me and Mum love Strictly. This is our favourite thing. Me and Mum, Mum is so much fun. Mum this, Mum that. And I knew that he was quite well pressing these emotional buttons. In football terms, he was trying to get me sent off. And it worked. I felt something go, and I just lunged, and I heard myself shout at my kid, Strictly is shit. Imagine yelling that in the face of a 9-year-old who's been looking forward to. That wasn't even the worst bit. I said, Strictly is shit, and you're going to give me a heart attack the way you talk to me, and your mother would be pleased if that happened. But it's unbelievable. I didn't know I had that in me. It's awful. It's not even true. It's obviously a very popular show. I'm pretty sure that joke doesn't make the finished article either. But you look around, if you're me, if you have any sort of capacity for self-awareness, you have to look at yourself and think, well, I'm 40, I'm divorced, most of the... well, not most, but some of the key relationships in my life have kind of drifted a bit. One of my 2 children doesn't really rate me that highly. And you can't help thinking, well, is it something wrong with me? Is there something, come back to this idea of empathy. Is there something fundamentally wrong with the way that I connect with other humans? And you start looking around on a day-to-day level, people that I superficially like, but something prevents us from connecting properly. You get this a lot, I think, in your 30s. You realise that a lot of your friendships are more about circumstance than anything. There's a bloke on what used to be my street, I'm trying to take this divorce theme gradually, sort of dial it down, but take the emotion out of it because it's not fair on anyone. But anyway, this guy lives about 3 doors down from the graveyard of dreams. And he... now and again, I still have to visit this massive slab of lost equity in order to... because the guy has a son who is mates with my son. And so our respective sons are friends, so I'm around this guy's house most weeks, and it would make so much sense if we ourselves were friends, and we're trying, but it's so hard to force a friendship. We've basically got nothing in common, me and this guy, apart from booze. Both of us like a drink, but even then, we don't have the same relationship with it. The guy is a wine connoisseur. He's a collector of fine wines. This guy goes to places like California just to bring wine back. This is the grade of arsehole we're dealing with. He's been further than Calais just for booze. And Again, for you, that's a bit of a dated reference, but in your lifetime, Calais has just been a massive dumping ground for refugees that have been failed by our geopolitical structures. But before that, it was a cheap place for cider. There you go. A bonus feature for the kids there, a brief history of Calais. And could easily get a 3 DVD deal off Netflix here. One on Calais alone. I'd be padding after a bit. What was I on about Calais? Oh yeah, this wine guy. The thing is, his wine is lovely. There's no doubt he knows his stuff, but you don't enjoy it because the whole time you're trying to drink it, he's lecturing you on the great varietals and what was a good year for cold climate whites and all this sort. Well, whites are cold climate, aren't they? Cold climate reds. Well, anyway, the point is, he rattles on about all this business, whereas I am more someone that uses phrases like, "Oh, that's taken the edge off," which is not a phrase that is widely recognised by the wine community, it turns out. It's impossible to have a conversation. I don't know what I meant to say. I do like wine, but I mostly just like drinking it. I never know how to respond. He's always like, talking about what you should be able to taste. You've seen these people. What you should be able to taste in the wine. A bit of chocolate. Damson is his obsession at the moment. Any red wine, any red. Oh, there's a bit of damson in there. I think, well, get it out, can you? Shouldn't be in there. I'll choke on that, mate. I haven't got my glasses on. I don't know how to have these conversations with him, even at the age that... What can you taste most, do you think? Is it the bit of licorice, or the summer berries, or there's just a little bit of chocolate that comes in at the very end? Like, mate, I'm sorry to disillusion you. What I can taste most is my problems sliding out of focus for a little while. What is your favourite thing about a Rioja? My personality after I've had it, thank you. Top me up, old boy. So what is it with these people, this idea of like the bit of chocolate that sneaks in at the very end? What the fuck are you talking about? It's not the Lord of the Rings, it's a glass of wine. If you think a glass of wine's got a beginning, middle and end, you're spending a lot longer in it than I would. But then you look at the wider world and you start to think it's not just me. Everyone is struggling to connect with everyone else. That's why we have the tense political, social climates that we do have. I live in London, where I suppose it is exacerbated. I reckon Bristol is maybe the biggest city that you could live in and still feel that there was a sense of community. The world was just about working. As soon as you go to London, I don't dislike London, but it's a much more tense experience than living in Bristol. And I've done both. I've lived in Bristol for 20-odd years. I've been in London for just over 15 years, for most of your life, really. I didn't move to London because of your birth, but I've accidentally made a spurious connection between the events. There's no doubt that the climate in London now is, on a day-to-day level, is fairly tense, partly because of the terror threat and all the rest of it. You'll know if you've... I've lived in London, as I say, more than 15 years. For the whole time I've lived there, they've had announcements in... there are 2 or 3 specific stations. Charing Cross is one of them. Not Paddington, actually. But most of the stations that connect London to the rest of the world, there are these announcements saying this is a time of heightened security. There'll be bag checks. This is even before the virus, even before this. You might have to spend longer in all this business. And I respect the need for it, but 15 years is a long time to be talking about a time of security. I think we have to admit it's not really a time now. This is just it now. There's not going to be a point where they go, ladies and gentlemen, I think they've gone. It looks all right. If you see a mysterious package, shake it, I guess. Why not? Anyway, at all stations nationwide these days, it began in London. Some government think tank came up with the idea that if you start saying, look out for suspicious behaviour, is anyone acting suspiciously, this kind of messaging affects people. You become, it's confirmation bias. I suppose you start to become more suspicious, and that's bad for morale, especially in a place like London. And that is why we have these announcements now, which say, please report anything you see which doesn't look right, which even for Britain strikes me as like quite a euphemism for, are you about to be killed, do you think? That man with the explosive strapped to his vest, I mean, it doesn't look right to me. What do you think? I think we might be blown. So I'm going to write about that. I'm going to write to someone. It's not right. No, it's not right. It's not right, Sue. I associate the name Sue with that sort of talking. It's also extremely vague. Something doesn't look right. A lot of things don't look right. I can't be on the phone all night to these people. Hello? Yeah, I've just seen a man, full-grown man, suit and tie, on one of those scooters, clearly meant for children. And he seems to think he could just go to work like that. So, no, not an imminent threat, but it doesn't look right, that. So I'm just letting you know. Hello? Me again. From earlier, yeah. I've just seen the word skiing written down. Strange, isn't it? It's... Those 2 eyes back to back, you sort of want a hyphen, but no one really does that anymore. So while I've got you, have you seen how they're spelling Centre Parks? I mean, what the fuck is that? Hello? Oi, I haven't talked about fetus yet. Not too long ago, I did what I sometimes do at these moments where you need sort of reboots, where you need a pep talk. Came back here to Henleys to see my mum. I grew up in Shirehampton, but they've moved to Henleys since then. Make of that what you will. My parents' social mobility. And, they really brought into Henleys at the right time as well. But we could talk about catchment areas, but that is, if anything, even more niche. It was a full family get-together, so all of my 3 siblings were there, as well as and over the course of this, my brother and I started talking about Banksy, which I think we can all agree is a fairly common hot topic in Bristol. At the time, you might remember, he just unveiled a new piece of art here, somewhere in the centre, but yet again, it was done under cover of darkness. No one had seen it. And my brother and I were just talking about how can this still be a phenomenon that Banksy is sort of world-renowned, and yet still no one spots him. And it's fascinating that he's made his anonymity into part of his fame, and so forth. And in the middle of all this conversation, my mum came in, as mums will, saying, who are we talking about? Who is this? Hoping for a neighbour having an affair, perhaps, rather than a street artist having a surprising career. And my brother felt there was no way we could bring my mum up to scratch, or Speed would have done, but Spatch won't do really there. It was hard to bring my mum up to spatula, as the phrase is. If you're watching from elsewhere in the country, that's just a Bristolian thing. I'm not up to spatula with that, mate. Every time I fuck things up tonight, I should have just claimed it was a Bristol thing. So my brother and I just tried to explain, you won't have heard of him, but there's a guy called Banksy, and the reason we're talking about it is he's from here. He's Bristolian, but everyone knows that, but no one knows who it is, and everyone wants to find out who it is, but no, blah, blah, blah. And my mum said, oh yes, Mrs. Gunningham's boy. And of course, didn't seem very likely, so my brother and I said, well, you've got the wrong end of the stick. The whole thing with this guy, just to recap, is no one knows who it is, and the New York Times sent an investigative reporter that they wanted. My mum said, yeah, his mother's a dentist. Lovely lady, retired now. And she reeled off various details about Banksy's siblings, his educational history. She claimed that Banksy was a member of Massive Attack, even though she didn't know what Massive Attack itself was. And of course, my brother and I came away from this conversation thinking, well, we need to keep a closer eye on Mum. She's become a fantasist, but quite niche fantasies about pop art. But then, as many of you will have seen, not long before Christmas, there's this massive thing in the tabloids, revealed mystery life of artist Banksy, and pretty much everything my mum said did check out. His name is Gunningham or Gunnington, something like that, as a number of people in Bristol do know. His mum had been a dentist, did live almost exactly where my mum claimed, in Southmead. And when I did a bit more Googling to work out if I was completely losing my marbles, the person that had leaked this information to just the Mirror, the Daily Mirror alone, paid the informant £120,000. But my mum had known for 10 years who Banksy was, just didn't give a shit. And that was the moment I began this cards experiment, because nothing makes you think you're not connecting with people like that. You can't help thinking, if my mum has been sitting on a secret as big as that, not even a secret, she would have told us at any point in the decade who Banksy was. We just didn't ask. And so then you start thinking, well, if that's my mum, then how much greater an effort of empathy must it be to connect with complete strangers? How much harder have you got to work to really understand what is in other people's heads? And that's what I've tried to do tonight and throughout the tour, throughout the hoarding of this incredible number of cards. There's still loads of these, and there will not be time. I think I'm reluctant even to check how much time. Yeah, we're sort of, I say we're struggling a bit. There's very little blame attached to you. I have to accept I've set the pace largely here. If you could just listen as fast as you can now, though. I drink at least 4 litres of squash a day. That's not even the worst bit. I alternate between orange and blackcurrant so that they stay at the same level in the bottle, and get annoyed when someone else drinks my squash because they mess with the levels. I'm trying to empathise, but you should probably speak to someone about that. I'll quickly try and find it. Who is this? Really? 4 litres of squash a day? I imagine that's the least of the side effects, yeah. Is it true you always go orange, blackcurrant, orange?
Yeah, I get really annoyed when my partner drinks it because he prefers blackcurrant and it's terrible.
Right, so he's distorting the blackcurrant levels, yeah. How long have you been together?
About 5.5 years.
It's worth ironing this out before too long, I think. It was squash that finished us in the end. When all the digits on my phone match, e.g. 1111 or 2222, I kiss the phone and make a wish. In the current climate, I would advise you to stop doing that with immediate effect. And I hope you don't take the phone to the toilet. I am the 1 in 10 dentists that do not recommend Oral-B. Right, so it's great to finally put a name to that statistic. Also, I have dental floss on my keyring. Jesus Christ. My husband cannot lie because he sings songs that subconsciously reveal what he's thinking. So I love that. Hate your dress, I hate your dress. What? No, it's a famous song, Bon Jovi. This amazing claim. I've been driving for 32 years, never yet filled up my car with petrol. I call my husband to do it every time, even when he's at the other side of the country. Not lazy, just scared. There can't be, I haven't got time to go around all these people. I'm an accountant. No one empathises me. Everyone hates me. They just want tax avoidance advice. In my spare time, I'm a belly dancer. Fair enough. Why not? My penis is the length of 2 Argos pencils. Also, I am banned from Argos. I know. Not ideal when one of the card writers gets one of the biggest laughs of the night, but there we are. And so it goes on. And we I don't like comedians. Oh, thanks for coming. I'm glad I didn't see that one until now. Part of the reason the show is called The Infinite Show is that this is more or less an infinite task. I could spend another hour going through these. I have thousands of these. Each one of these cards represents a distinct person that it is in some way your duty as a human to try and connect with. And it is a difficult task, but I'm going to keep doing it, even though this is the final performance of this show, my final go at handing out these cards. It is my mission going forward in life to be a better, more empathetic person, to form better connections with people. And these cards are a sort of symbol of that, and that's why I'm really glad that you've come. So I'm not going to end, if you, very peculiar note to end on, just give you like sort of Jerry Springer-esque 10 minutes. He ended with a thought. I liked that. I enjoyed the sort of stand-up philosophy bit. I won't end with it. I just would like to express my gratitude that you've come, and those of you who wrote cards, or any of you that have participated in this. It's been a really pleasurable experience for, I was going to say for me. In a way, that's not the whole point. I hope some of you have got something out of it. I can't really afford to just go home and go, yeah, I thought I was amazing. Yeah, I really, some of the stuff I come out with, amazing. I'm not going, of course, on a sentimental note, it would be the wrong feeling, I think, but also there's logically only one way I really could end the show, because I've worked quite hard on this, and it'd be a waste if I didn't use this. Who's got a purse or a wallet? Ideally, you're reasonably near the front to the vibes, and ideally you would know how much money is in there. Anyone? I won't lie to you. Yeah, I don't have a plan B here, really. There we go. Front row is perfect. Do you know how much is in there, roughly? Fair enough. So why don't you just have a little count of it? That is fine. Not that long ago, I tried this thing in Pontardawe in South Wales, near Swansea, and I asked the bloke, do you know how much is in there? And the bloke said, yep, £7.50. Right. It's less of a trick if you tell me the answer, answer. It's just a gift I've got. I ask people questions and they tell me the answer. Hang on, have you counted it already? There we go. That's a clue, but of course I'm just purely going by the vibes. I'm not trying to go by logic. So if I can ask you to just hold your hand up. Okay. It's not an easy one. I'm going to go for £22.50. Big loud voice. Am I right?
If you want this to look good, if you make it up to that amount, that'd be great.
I mean, that's a bit less exciting than the original trick was. How much was it?
15.
There you go. Can't be done. That's my point, really. We need to have better conversations because magicians are full of shit. I think I prefer it that way. Thank you very much for listening to me for what has now been quite a long time. I'm sure you're as conscious of that as I am. It is a wonderful venue. I'm really grateful to have been here, to have had you as an audience. Thank you very much for listening. You're watching Mark Watson. Thank you. Thanks to everyone that came. Good night. Thank you very much. Have a nice night. Thank you.